from a very young age, I was told that I was born to be a leader. Were you ever told that? And maybe even like me, all throughout school and group projects, you just ended up being the spokesperson or the leader or the person who was supposed to lead the group or speak for the group. That was me every single time. All throughout school, from elementary into junior high into high school, even in college, I just was chose to lead by the group, or I just kind of assumed that position. And so for most of my life, I believed I was a really good leader. It was one of those things where I thought that it was something you were born with, not that you learned. And so I entered into ministry thinking that like I am a really good leader. I'm the greatest leader ever. And I quickly found out, after having a few years of full-time ministry under my belt, I found out one very important thing is that I was not a good leader. I found out that I wasn't a good leader, I was a really bad leader. I was extremely reactive in almost every situation. I had no control over my emotions. Anytime I got into any sort of conflict, I would try to pass the blame off and escape as fast as I could. I got really good at manipulating people to doing what was best for me, not what was best for the church. I was also extremely competitive with the other churches in town. If there was a point where they wanted to do a community service, I had to be the one preaching or leading, or we weren't going to do it. And after a while, I realized like, whoa, I'm a really good leader. Except that I wasn't. I wasn't. Even with people telling me like, hey, you're not doing a great job, I was just like, I would brush them off saying, no, I am a great leader. I promise you I am. But it was around that time that I was in seminary, and I was assigned a book by Edwin Freeman called A Failure of Nerve. A book that truly to this day has really changed my life. And it introduced a concept that really changed how I saw leadership. It changed how I saw ministry. And so this concept that I was learning was called self-differentiation. And so I realized that I'm running the risk that most of you are going to know this already, but I can't not talk about this because it was so vital for me as a leader. So I'm going to read a little bit of this. So basically, what self-differentiation is self-differentiation, simply put, is a leader paying special attention to their own emotional health by managing their own anxiety with the system. Freeman states it this way: the differentiation is the lifelong process of striving to keep one's being in balance through the reciprocal external and internal processes of self-definition and self-regulation. So basically, it is being able to know where you stand emotionally. It is being able to stand for the right thing even if you stand alone. It is maintaining a non-anxious presence in the face of anxious others. It is being able to stay connected to others in a meaningful way without those others pushing and pulling you around emotionally. Now I realize that's a lot, and I kind of want to unpack it just a little bit. Is self-differentiation is, to me, is being able to know who you are, know what you stand for, and be able to function within a system without being influenced by others in a way, in either a negative or a positive way. Like, you are your own person. You can think through things without being emotionally reactive. This concept is what changed my leadership for good, for my entire life. It changed it for the better. I first experienced the power of this when I got into the worst conflict I had ever been in my entire life of ministry. I remember it vividly. I woke up one morning, and as I normally did at that time, I checked Facebook just to see if there was anything funny, maybe there's anything good. But what I saw was a status posted by one of my members of my church, and it was extremely really nasty sounding, and it was basically just totally degrading this person. they weren't naming a name, but it was very clear that they hated this person. And I just had a feeling when I read it, I was like, I think she's talking about me. So normally, what I would have done in that situation, before I knew about self-differentiation, is I would have gone and talked to a bunch of people, got them on my side, and I would have fought back. And but I didn't do that this time. I decided, I'm gonna just call her. So I called her and I said, I saw your status. Is this about me? I just had to know. And she proceeded to tell me, yes, it is about you. And she, for another hour after that, told me what a terrible person I was. Now you can imagine how hurtful it was. I was totally hurt. I was totally deflated. And I was angry because a lot of the things she was saying about me were false, or just misinterpreted. And so, but I thought back to what I learned about self-differentiation. I put my emotions aside for a second. I thought about it logically. I thought about it like, okay, what is she saying? Clearly what she's saying is not true. I don't need to defend myself, but I can calmly and collectively have a good, positive conversation with her about her claims and about how she's feeling. And we had the most amazing talk. It was hard. It was really hard. Like everything in me was saying, scream at her, fight back. You don't have to stand for this. But honestly, I was able to stay calm. I was able to stay collected. I was able to keep my voice in a tone that was positive and inviting. And from that point on, after that talk that day, our relationship was amazing. We never had struggles ever again. And so I know that self-differentiation, it's hard to explain it in one video. It's really something, like Edwin Friedman says, it's a lifelong process. But the whole point of this video is for you to realize, being a good leader, I really don't believe is something that you get overnight. It's not something that you are necessarily born with. Maybe you're born with leadership qualities of people just naturally kind of want to follow you, but being a good leader, being a good, solid, healthy ministry leader takes work, and it takes time, and it takes study. And this concept of self-differentiation is probably the best thing that helped me become a better, stronger, healthier leader when it comes to leadership concepts. I highly recommend, there's a great video on YouTube that I will put in the link for you guys to watch, explaining self-differentiation more. But really, in essence, everything I've talked about in these videos has to do with being a healthy leader, physically, spiritually, relationally. It's all about taking care of your health, taking care of who you are and yourself, and making sure that you're healthy. Because that's one thing that leads to burnout, is when you totally ignore the symptoms, when you ignore your own health, that all of a sudden one day you'll realize, I don't want to be in ministry anymore, and which may lead to, I don't want to be a Christian anymore. And that's called burnout. And that's what we're trying to beat. We're trying to beat burnout together. And so I hope these videos have been informative, have at least sparked conversation. Please feel free to contact me. Let's keep the conversation going, and together we can continue to beat burnout.